Many arguments have arisen in the search for understanding of Earth's long history of geological changes wrought by a variety of events, large and small. The timeline shows many smaller extinctions, climatic spikes, or short-lived events which affected the life on Earth. And of course, what are widely considered to be the 5 major extinctions as measured and recorded by current science. The late Cambrian or Ordovician-Silurian extinction, around 440 million years before present, was the time of predominantly ocean and vegetative-based life forms. The cataclysm that befell them was a supercooling, sea level dropping event. It wiped almost 90% of the life from the planet, with the vast majority of scientists suggesting various geological changes such as mountains forming through subsurface volcanic activity, the vast loss of carbon dioxide converting to oxygen, and significant sea level drop bringing the subsequent near end of all plant and marine life along with it. Next was a 100 million year period, which at its end saw the Devonian extinction event around 365 million years before present. This event took place in an approximate range of hundreds of thousands of years and is generally described as longer lasting than the other 4. It was more related to low oxygen levels and extensive volcanic activity, reducing the planet's mean temperature, while dead oceans with a medium-high sea level relative to the rest of the timeline meant the predominant marine life never had a chance, being nearly wiped out again. The cooling also eradicated nearly all the plant life through a lack of light and cooler than optimum temperatures. The Permian-Triassic era extinction was the worst extinction to date and ushered in the loss of nearly all of the planet's life forms, allowing only the hardiest and most adaptable organisms to survive. About 3 to 4% of the entire catalog of living things during that era. It is widely seen as a massive volcanic eruption with associated mini-cataclysms and occurred around 250 million years before present. This extinction is called today the Great Dying. When the Triassic-Jurassic extinction happened over a period of tens of million years, about 210 million before present, it was a harbinger of things to come, with numerous asteroid impacts, resultant mile-high tsunamis, and the whole host of climatic changes that went with it. This series of cataclysms in their own right was highlighted by the large percentage of existent and continuously evolving mammal life as opposed to archosaurs early on. But over the long segment of its history, those mammal life forms were declining after their heyday, giving way to these archosaurs, precursors to the dinosaurs, as well as early dinosaurs themselves. Enter the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, often labeled the end of the dinosaurs. Around 65 million years ago, a whole host of cataclysms was most likely set off by the Chicxulub asteroid, estimated to be between 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter. A near world killer, this impact was also the end of the vast majority of dinosaurs as we see them in museums and history books, yet not enough to kill off numerous species of birds and other dinosaur-like life forms which still exist today. It also allowed for the rise of the mammalian life and large numbers of new marine species that we see today. Now that we have an understanding of how vast and lengthy the planetary changes have been for our world as a whole, we can begin to apply the different approaches which will bolster or break down the arguments for catastrophism versus uniformitarianism. What science often fails to do in this scenario is concentrate on the largest events and extinctions and not integrate with their theories and observational data the fact that in the immense time between these 5 blasts from the past, there were countless smaller mini-cataclysms that were so great and powerful they could almost be described as one large ongoing event. This defines the basis for uniformitarianism, whereas if the planet is in a steady state of change, whether it be slow or peaceful, or constant and indescribably destructive, it is nonetheless uniform in nature. The catastrophist, in comparison, sees each cataclysm, large or small, as single events that formed and shaped the planet's life cycles, crust, climatology in one hellacious scenario at a time, with intense catastrophic features that separate them from the ordinary ebb and flow of what has been going on since Earth was born. In between those were long periods of relative peace and quiet, with little to no geological activity to speak of, in the eyes of the catastrophist. Looking at the sea level and temperature record of the last 500 million years or so, we see a steady series of wildly fluctuating highs and lows over the entire timeline, which when viewed as a whole appears to be non-cyclical and equally built of large swings back and forth, nothing remotely uniform about it, purely catastrophic in nature. Yet, if we look closer at segments of the timeline to see the climatic, geological, and atmospheric data points between the 5 big ones, it is often very cyclical, and a pattern emerges which correlates with the ice cores, climatological research, and sampling done by modern scientists. These regions of seeming uniformity and minimal activity are often used to support the uniformist theories we see in circles of many researchers today. So, can Earth be described as both uniform and catastrophic in nature all at once? Most will see their own reduction of the data based on what they see in the charts, graphs, and climate maps of today's mainstream scientists and discard the option which shows a planet which rose from being a wicked hellhole of fire and brimstone to be a stable platform for life, eventually becoming almost relatively docile through the ages. But with each passing day, our seeming peaceful and somewhat predictable era is getting closer to the next day of reckoning, a point in history where we ourselves become statistics and experience another one of these cataclysms, usually based on a single or multiple Earth-based events, or celestial occurrences we have yet to imagine. The cycle of our planet's escapade through space is typically seen as predictable, and the effects of the various galactic forces it passes through are seen as fairly uniform, the fractal nature of our tiny timeline's observations with punctuated larger events throws a wrench in the gears for the modern uniformist. Are all of these timelines we see and discover cyclical in the grand scheme of things, or is nature just winging it and leaving the vast amount of scientists and researchers baffled and unable to, even more unwilling, take sides? Many degrees and accreditations hang in the balance when a scientist decides upon a discipline to follow or adhere to, and the conundrum of catastrophism versus uniformitarianism is one of the most inconclusive at all. To hang your hat on one often means to reject the other, and what many of these so-called seekers of truth come to realize, it is probably best described as a combination of both, and when zoomed in appears uniform, but when zoomed out takes the randomness of a Gallagher comedy show, replete with all the little jokes, medium-sized magic tricks, and of course the massive watermelon smashing finales. As humans, we can be assured that due to our minuscule existence here in modern form, we are not seeing a cycle over our own time, but a singular point of data in an immeasurable expanse of universe that will probably never give up its secrets to us, lest we prepare and be ready for that curveball it throws into our infinitesimal strike zone. Man is the batter, and nature is the pitcher, and if we still don't even realize how important the catcher is as he calls pitches to destroy, create, or irreversibly alter our environment, climate, and very fragile balance of life here. The universe is a uniform march of catastrophic events, summed up as a whole which highlights the contest between the two disciplines, begging the reader here to make their call or bluff their way through based on their own interpretation of the evidence. We now are more than 10 millennia into the Holocene era, and what we are seeing is a loss of natural resources through man-made effects, along with a natural progression of life forms being extinct over that time, and to the astute eye that we are just riding that roller coaster up and down to an eventual result, which if history plays out as it has and does, another huge extinction for whatever living things are most affected by it. When it does, don't be afraid to say I told you so. Just ride it out if you can, and be glad you got to come here and spend some time on the most amazing thrill ride ever to grace our planet, our mysterious history as a species. Whether a catastrophist or uniformist, we will always with fresh eyes and minds experience the wrath and blessings of nature, regardless of our personal ideas or theories regarding the universe and our beautiful planet. But it can't hurt to try to figure it out.